I knew there was a bigger world out there that would be interested in film and the sort of cultural content that goes with it. Hi and welcome to Paths and Outdoors. I have made my annual pilgrimage down to Kendal, to the Kendal Mountain Festival office to meet with Steve Scott, who is a former adventure sports professional and one of the directors at Kendal Mountain Festival. So, Steve, welcome.
Hi, Davey. Nice to be here.
Nice to be here. Yeah, thank you for letting me in again to the KMF HQ.
With the festival, the old festival.
Yes, well, definitely. So we've crossed paths a couple of times with different things, and I've always had it in the back of my mind to get you on here. So I kind of took the opportunity as I was here to reach out, and you gladly accepted.
We've never really had the crack before, have we?
No, not really.
Chance cross paths.
Yes,
Just a hello in the festival.
That's it. Yeah, or outdoor trade shows and things like that. So
exactly.
we're always somewhere. But yeah, just sit down and talk about your journey and where that started and where the passion came from. So I suppose best place to start is for you to sort of give us a sort of your background and what, like back in where it came from, where you lived, and how you got into it.
Yeah, like I guess looking back, it's a childhood in Keswick in the Northern Lake District. So very lucky in that sense to grow up with that mountain environment and lake environment at home, and definitely became a huge part of my life. But initially, it wasn't really in our family. My dad was a serious rugby player. Played for the north of England, played up in Hawick, in the borders.
Your dad did? Or
yeah, my dad
did,
okay. And really pushed me down the rugby route. I mean, I loved the game, played it very well to schoolboy, club first team level, and used to train up in Langham as well. So, rugby was a huge passion of mine. But then, as is often the case at school, it was just one teacher who introduced me to skiing, as it was, oddly, for an English lad in the Lake District, but he was in the mountain rescue team and a very keen skier and kayaker, and he pretty much looked after outdoor education, at school, and did all the sort of extracurricular activities. So it was thanks to this chap Brian Spencer who was instrumental in getting the school into outdoor activities, but also starting the ski club at Kendal, and we did a bit of a fundraise and ended up building a dry slope at school, which was pretty wild. It was a very short, steep ski slope, a Dendex slope, which had floodlights, no lift. And I used to persuade him I must have been a 6th year because I'd passed my driving test. I was driving my dad's van. He was a builder in town, and I used to steal his van when I passed my test to go to the dry slope. And my teacher used to give me the keys to practice slalom, because I was getting into ski racing then and needed to practice. But we didn't have any slalom poles, it was pretty Heath Robinson, I think you call it. But my dad got me some plumber's piping, and I put it into sort of wooden blocks under the Dendex and set myself slalom courses, and I'd be up and down, be pissing with rain, I'd be up and down that slope all night in the floodlights. Right. And my dad would have to literally sometimes walk down and come and drag me. He's like, what the hell are you doing? It's 10:30 at night. But when it came to ski racing, me and a couple of friends, we were usually the fastest kids over about 5 or 6 turns. But after that, we used to get so confused. It was like, we've only got a short, steep slope to practice on.
So there was others, it wasn't just you, there was a crowd.
We started a ski club, and it was a really good little team, and I think a small group of us ended up doing quite well. I think 3 of us ended up on the English schools team and Alpine squad, and then I progressed even further a bit, and then just decided that was the life for me. I just had an aptitude for sliding down hills on planks, really.
And how did your family sort of take to that? Obviously,
because
background.
I guess because both my parents were business folk, guest house. My mum had a guest house. My dad was a builder. He had a small building company, but a successful one, I guess, in town. And, they were always supportive and didn't really push us academically. I mean, I did A-levels and I got a place to study at what was Trent Poly in those days, but it was a real tear for me because I was like, teachers were pressuring me to go to uni, and I just was thinking about the mountains and, you know, that life, and I managed to last, I think it was a week at Trent.
So you went and
then went straight to the Alps.
Right,
After
okay.
that, it's just like, this is not the life for me. I just knew at that time of life I was going to be studying French and business, and I just couldn't see myself working as it was in the common market in Brussels or wherever you would end up with that sort of degree.
Your parents kind of went, yeah, supported?
Totally supportive,
yeah,
anything's possible. No pressure. It probably would have been nice to have had a uni education, but, you know, that would have taken me on a completely different pathway, and which is, I guess, what we're all about today. So I would never have probably ended up as much in the outdoors. So, I just pursued a life of mountain sports in the Alps, really, from a young age.
And those mountain sports, what did that?
So with skiing, my objective was to try and get into, you know, Europa Cup, World Cup, and beyond. But like a lot of, you know, young British skiers, there wasn't any money. We were often travelling in a van and sleeping in a van and doing the odd feast race. And although I did quite well, I didn't quite make it. I had a pretty bad accident as well. But at the same time, I was doing my ski instructor's exams and, you know, working my way through the system. So actually, while I was at school, my dad said, well, if you're going to do your ski instructor's exams up in Cairngorm, you're going to have to contribute to it because it's not. So I said, well, I'll do a milk round or something before school. So I used to get up at, you know, 4:30 in the morning to do the milk round on an electric milk float around Keswick. I do apologise to all those people if I used to wake them up, because I used to use it as training. So I used to set myself a time to deliver this milk, jumping over walls, and there would be milk bottles smashed every, especially in the winter. But I would literally get to school and, you know, be nodding off at the back of the class because I was just thinking about skiing.
Yes, the focus was getting your exams done.
But I managed to, you know, when I was, I must have been 18, did my Basie 3 in those days, as it called, and got that, which enabled me to go out with a British company and start teaching, sort of fast tracking through my Basie qualifications. I ended up becoming a Basie trainer, and then I did my French exams, the equivalence, and then did quite a few in France. I ended up working for the French ski school, and I also became a race trainer as well. So I did lots of things with, you know, young racers as well as private clients and what have you.
So developing the sort of next generation.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with my qualifications, it just enabled me to reach out into different areas. I think when I worked for the French ski school, I think there was one of only, I think there was myself, a guy called Makoto. Yeah, we were only 2 foreigners in a ski school, French ski school of 350. I was the second Brit after a colleague of mine, Peter Couval from Scotland. The two of us, I think, were the first couple to get our sort of equivalent French exams, which was a slalom race test. You had to basically get within 10% of a French World Cup ski racer. So luckily, my background.
So those copper pipes has done you well. Your foundation.
Plumber's piping was really useful. Yeah, but God knows what that had to do with ski teaching. But, you know, and this was the political chaos we were involved in at the time, where on one side we knew the Brits were brilliant ski teachers. They were, you know, really helping the ski industry and the general, you know, ski mad public that was coming out. And the French, because there were so many people, they had to have this sort of filtration system that enabled them to cut a lot of people out of the industry, which was unfair for the rest of us, because we were saying, well, we're coming at it from more of a pedagogical perspective and thinking about the consumer, the person wanting to learn. And it was very performance focused in the French system. So, you know, I was always the underdog and had to sort of prove myself on the mountain to all these Frenchies. But
you know,
I used to do that. I used to get a lot of respect, you know, and that, at the end of the day, whatever nationality you are, I think you just got to let your talent do the talking.
And the ability and to be able to prove yourself.
Classically, one of the race coaches in Alpe d'Huez, a guy called Robin Fleury, he took me under his wing, and I learnt a lot from him. We used to take the the local young racers from the Club des Sports, and he said to me, he said, you know one thing, he said, Steve, you should have been born French. I was like, can't win, can you really? You know, I was born British, but I'm not ashamed of that at all. You know, I'm proud of it. Yeah. So, and look where we are today. You know, I was interviewing Dave Riding and Laurie Taylor, and some, you know, we've got some amazing female and male ski racers at the moment who are really doing great things.
Obviously, there's more money in the industry and the
sport. Well,
now.
Ironically, they've just lost a whole heap of funding as British snow sport after the best season on record ever. You know, from Europa Cup wins to World Cup wins with Dave. You know, it just beggars belief. It's like, how can they lose their funding? So they're all having to hunt private sponsorship down again. Wow. It's like going back
to the struggle again.
It's like going back 10 years. Yeah. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
You know.
So, whilst you were there doing that teaching, I mean, what kind of age was that?
Well, I mean, it was all ages. I ended up having, you know, quite a sort of good collection of private clients, but I'd often split my time with snowboarding as well. I got into that. I think the great thing of being in France in the 90s and, you know, late 80s, all through the 90s, was just the innovation and creativity that came out of the mountain sports world. You know, and I was definitely there at the coalface with a lot of these folk, and would inevitably try snowboarding when it was just coming out. You know, monoskis, you name it, squall. God, there were all sorts of things that didn't take off, but I would give it a go, and that's how I got into flying paragliders. You know, it was a friend in the ski school who managed to get hold of one of these, and I said, that looks amazing, and he said, oh, do you want to come for a fly? And yeah, that was it. And my first ever flight in a paraglide, it was on the first generation paragliders. Literally was there when the sport started in France, and I got one of these wings that came from a French parachute manufacturer called VS, and he built a little ramp for me. I had my skis on, it was in the winter, and I said, right, well, where am I going? And he says, you're going to fly down into the valley. I'm like, what? You've got to be joking, I've not flown one of these things. And he said, no, you'll be fine, it's winter, the air's pretty still. And so I said, so right is to turn right, left is to turn left. I said, what about stopping? And he said, well, you've got your skis on, you don't need to worry about that. Just brake, you know, when you come in. But you know, 3,000 feet down in the valley, we'll be there waiting for you. And I said, well, it's getting pretty dark. It was the end of the day. And he said, we'll be flashing the headlights near the field where you're going to be landing. And I'm like, okay, I'll trust you then. His mate was down in the field, his brother actually. Patrick Barreau is his name. He ended up becoming world champion, French champion, so he was the real deal. And he obviously trusted my
skiing ability.
My skiing ability, not my flying ability. Yeah. So I just took off. This thing was incredible. And they were like bricks in those days. You know, flew really slowly. And I was hooked and got into the sport, brought one back to the Lake District. And my friend who'd been doing a season climbing out in Chamonix had also got one. And, you know, there was only a few of us in Britain who had these things, and we just started throwing ourselves off the hills in the Lake District, which, you know, had a few scary moments.
Yeah, I was going to say a bit of a learning curve.
Yeah, it was a very steep learning. And then obviously with the sport was, I guess it was like windsurfing in the early days. You got so many people getting into it, and there was accidents inevitably, but the sort of design was, the sort of development curve, if you like, with the design was very steep. So we were all test pilots in those days. And I remember we got a French manufacturer called Edel, who we used to fly for, and we'd literally cut lines off and hand tie them to try and improve the maneuverability, you know, the pitch and the roll of the wing. And we started, you know, competing, and there were a couple of really good pilots and friends of mine. And yeah, it was great. So I got heavily involved in the sport and became an instructor in that as well.
Right, okay. And how did that kind of take you away from the ski instruction, or is it just is that your own thing? Or
it was like complementary with the summer.
Okay.
So the winter, summer. So, you know, winter was ski, snowboard, and I got into climbing in Alpe d'Huez as well, but specifically ice climbing. So, you know, that was a whole, you know, distraction, if you like, but the flying became became just an addiction really, and it's just amazing to feel like a bird up there, and I just threw myself completely into it, and yeah, a few of us got quite good, competed at, quite a good level, and then it became a business. When I initially got involved, I met a few French colleagues. We worked with a few French companies, and then we basically started a mountain sports school in Alpe d'Huez, which is known for its Tour de France stage.
Yes.
So we had a mountain sports school there, which was, paragliding school, but other mountain sports in the winter. And if the tour had been, we'd obviously do a lot of business after the tour. Especially flying the Danes and the Dutch over the hairpin bends. That was fantastic.
Yeah. So, and that all sounds very quick from going over there to
fast track.
Fast track.
Yeah.
But when you look back at that now, where do you see, focusing on the sort of ski school area, where do you see what took you on your path? What was it that, was there a key moment, or you mentioned somebody who was mentoring you, took you under your wing and things like that?
A lot of people, a lot of great people,
yeah.
Whether climbers or skiers or snowboarders. I think a lot of them were French. I really immersed myself in that culture, learned the language, was fluent in French, had a French girlfriend at the time. It was very much about, well, if I'm going to get good, I'm not going to get good in Keswick, with respect to Keswick, which is great for fell runners. Yeah. But for my sport, really, I literally had to go out there and, be with the best people and learn from them. Yeah. Day in, day out, live the life, really.
Yeah. And then moving into the kind of your paragliding element, obviously you were there at the kind of birth, I suppose. So there must have been some moments that came from that were quite key.
Yeah, I mean, with having inspirational people in the sport from Britain, whether Judy Ledham was around, she was, people coming in from hang gliding, Robbie Whittle, friend of mine, Jockey Sanderson, Patrick Holmes, Stuart Holmes, my good friends from Keswick. All these people were really instrumental in the sport, driving it forwards. I was probably not so great as a cross-country pilot. I was more into the aerobatics, the scary stuff, just throwing the glider around, getting really high. And you see now the way things have evolved. People are doing tumbling and, the aerobatics, as I called it, but yeah, acro, as they call it now. But it hadn't really evolved into that then, and I did start flying cross country, and I guess I just, I was just impatient. I just wanted to do so much, but it was a great... And
it was a crossover with skiing as well. You were able to ski as part of it. I mean, I've seen obviously a lot of social media stuff and things like that.
I wish the speed wings had been invented then, because I would have definitely been into that. Definitely tried that, although I'm a bit old now, but it's something I wish I'd always would have had a go at, definitely, because it fuses the two sports. Yeah. And that's the beauty of the sort of evolution of, outdoor and what you call adventure sports, is just how you see technology shifting. And if you've been lucky enough to be at the forefront of when something is starting, you see the evolution quickly, because you're right there, you're in the middle of it, you're making changes yourself. And there are some bad moments that come with that as well, when you lose friends, and
that can be the problem.
Risk,
yeah, people pushing the boundaries a little bit as well sometimes. But I suppose that's adventure sport game. That's the dice that some people rolled.
Absolutely. I think I've lost a few friends along the way. I think all of us have in the professional world, and I think it's just part and parcel of it.
Unfortunately, but that is part of the nature of adventure sports. So you've got through your parent, you got the adventure sports business. How long did you?
So as I mentioned, I was selected to ski for the British demo ski team in Japan in '95, and at that time things weren't going great with the business, because we sadly lost one of our partners in an avalanche. Bernard Fabre, was myself, Francois, and this other chap, Bernard, who was with clients and was killed in an avalanche off the back of the Soaring in Alpe d'Huez. So that hit me for 6, as well as the whole setup, and I sort of had to revisit everything a bit there. And It was all a bit of a difficult period in my life, and I ended up through a relationship moving to live in Norway for nearly 4 years. So that was the next step for me, to move to Scandinavia.
So that obviously tragic accident, how were you able to deal with that grief at that time?
I think the hard thing was it's always the people left behind, like his wife. He had an English wife and 2 young kids. You see the same with Hilary Nelson recently, two young boys, and partner of Jim Morrison, so a very high profile athlete in the mountains, and
And at that time, how old were you at that point?
So that would have been 95, 96. So 30 odd years old.
And were you able to process that? I'm just thinking about men in general and how we managed that grief.
Yeah.
Were you able to get through it, or did you
I
bury
think
the
it was
head
a
in the sand?
difficult time, and also the business. My business partner wasn't as dedicated to the business side of it as he should have been, really. And I, still a foreigner and living in France, it's very much you are reliant on your sort of national business partners, if you like, to help you through things, and it just wasn't happening. So it was a culmination of things where I thought the writing's on the wall for me here. I need to have a change of life, change of scene, and as it happened, I met a Norwegian girl, and she lured me over to Norway. And that's how it was. She was a telemark ski racer, and that became my new challenge. To ski as well as the Norwegians in telemark.
Okay. How did that go?
It went really well, actually. In fact, I was so lucky. Again, it's being the right place at the right time, and I ended up training with what were the world champion telemark ski racers and top racers, Morten Muller, Fridtjof Loen, these people in Norway, and I was part of that friendship group, if you like, and I'd literally fly down the mountain on my telemark skis trying to keep up with them. Anyway, I got to a decent, nowhere near their standard, but I got to a strong telemark skiing standard, and I was running a Basie course. I was training a load of instructors in Glen Shee, because I used to fly over. They used to take me into Andorra or Scotland, or wherever the course would be, and I was doing just over it would be a 2-week course nearly in Glen Shee, and in the lunchtime I'd switch my alpine skis for my telemark skis and have a few runs down the Tiger. And this guy came up to me and he said, "I've been watching you on the chairlift." He said, "You don't fancy skiing for the British telemark team, do you?" He said, "You were flying." I said, No, you're all right, thanks. I've gone through all the racing days. And it's very, very humbling, very kind of you to suggest that. But he was a telemark ski racer. And
At that time, was it quite an unusual sight, telemark skiing
Yeah,
in Glen
yeah,
Shee? I'd imagine
it wasn't. People were like, "What the hell's he doing?"
Yes.
Kneeling as he's turning, dropping a knee. But they were flying these Scandis, and that was when the carving skis were just coming in. So I remember when we first got carving skis to telemark on, you were getting so much response from the turn. Prior to that, it'd been quite a static move, if you like, in the technique. But I think the invent, as it was on piste as well, the invent of carving skis put a whole new dynamism into the sport, and you could see that coming through with the racing as well.
Yeah. No, it's an impressive sight, somebody who can telemark really well and turn and move. I've seen it in Norway before.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing thing. I tried it, didn't really succeed, but
it helps if you're getting tips from the world champions.
Well, that's true.
And your girlfriend's one of the top racers in Norway. It's that. I had no choice but to try and keep up.
So you were still bouncing about doing teaching and
well, no, in Norway when I lived there, I was there full time. So I ended up working for Oslo Ski Club and coaching junior ski racers, which was a bit weird for the Norwegians to have a British guy coming in and coaching their youngsters. And you used to get the long stare. I was like, oh, here we go again. It's like I went through the French system and very strange looks, like what's a Brit doing coming into our. Are you sure you can ski? So I remember they said, "Oh, could you set a slalom course?" Which I did, and I could could show them how the different drills I would take the kids through, and I ended up doing some work there and got the acceptance, if you like. But I also ended up working in publishing to pay the bills, because
I was going to say, was it solely that? But obviously, publishing was...
I managed to convince an American company that I could look after their books, their lists, if you like, a big academic publisher called McGraw-Hill, and they had Harvard Business School press as well, and I used to literally try and get new authors and look after the market for them, mainly sales, but in Norway and Iceland, which was great because it enabled me to travel around the country, to ski when I could and adventure in the mountains, often solo, and have time up there and learn another language, I guess.
How was solo travelling in Norway? I mean, it's a beautiful country.
Oh, amazing, yeah. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I used to spend time up in the Arctic Circle at Tromsø, and wandered over there. But even equally, Iceland, had some great times in Iceland. Would try and pack my work into the first few days and then go off and wander and look at different places to explore. And they were great years, because I didn't have the family then and the businesses and all the rest of it. I felt a lot freer, if you like, to do that.
So how long did that last? What was the next stage?
Just under 4 years.
4 years,
Yeah. And then, like anything that you think is eternal, it ends up not being eternal. And, it was a case of relationship split, and it was a huge age difference. It was all like, my girlfriend wanted to move to the Alps. I'd come from the Alps. It was like, okay, where do we go now then? And it's like, okay, I really miss the UK. I miss my own people. All my adult life I've been living abroad. And luckily met a chap from Kendal who ran a team building company here. And he said that he came out with another friend to ski with us in Norway. And he said, well, if you ever want to come back to the UK, there's a job for you. And I ended up giving him a call, and he said, right, yeah, we've got an event director's job going, and you can use your coaching skills to work with people with team building, which was incredible, again, because it was such a creative... I've always been super creative, and it was a new channel for me to work on this and work on the sort of the design side. So they ended up sending me on all these different courses to learn graphic design. I ended up looking after the sort of marketing element, and in the same breath I would run the events. And with some of the groups we worked with were incredible, like work with Ian McGeechan and the Scottish rugby team.
So that element for the events company, it sounds like you got into a lot more, a lot more elements of, or a lot more learning.
Yeah, I think it was, they sent me on a lot of, the sort of psychometric training courses, Myers-Briggs, Belbin, emotional intelligence, NLP, all that stuff where you work with groups of people and, have to facilitate these things. So I guess I was learning my coaching and teaching skills from sport into what was now a business, a corporate world. But at the same time, I was working a lot with creativity and design, because as a sideline, that's always been a passion of mine. I'd always loved graphic design. And
so what had you done prior to there then? What had there been in terms of design whilst you were skiing, or did you have the time?
I'd had played with Macs when I could get a Mac. In those early days, was it the LC2? I think the early Macs. But they were so basic. But actually, a lot of the people I visited in Scandinavia were at design schools as well through the publishing company, and I'd ask them what books I needed to read to learn about the sort of formal side of learning graphic design. So I used to follow, especially a lot of American designers, David Carson, Sagmeister is Austrian. British designer called Alan Fletcher. So these real design icons that were a real inspiration to me. So again, as you can probably tell, I'm a bit of an obsessive character. So I'm like, right, I've got to learn to become a designer, but a good one. And just threw myself into that. And after the team building company, ended up starting my own design agency, which again did quite well, but in a sort of in the outdoor world as well because of my background. So you can see how it's all very abstract, but stitches in, doesn't it?
Yes, I know what you mean. And as that progressed, then, so you went from team building, graphic design. Where was your ski sort of
skiing
fix?
The ski fix would be in winter, but it was, you know, the people I was working with, the team building company, were all outdoor folk. The founder of that company, Guy Baker, was one of the world's best ever river runners. You know, he's legendary in doing one of the first river descents of the Indus. And, you know, it's very much about being with a similar type of people. After work, we'd all go mountain biking. He got into paragliding, so they'd all sort of look to me to help them progress quickly with their flying. And you know, there's a whole group of people. You know, we'd try and do what we call multi-sport days, where if it was a weekend, you know, we'd try and get a paraglide in and a climb in, or a mountain bike. You know, and it was a good group, and we're all very social. It was a real tight-knit community. And in the same breath, he was, I think, one of the cleverest entrepreneurs I've ever seen. You know, he now lives in South Island, New Zealand, but a house in Lombok and a house in Byron Bay. He's just been really successful, but still lives the dream of having that outdoor lifestyle and running a multiple franchise business around the world. Yeah, so still at the cutting edge of creative team building. So yeah.
As an industry, it's quite niche, but if you do it right, you can be. And
it's taken really some knocks, obviously, with the credit crunch.
Yes.
And, you know, the crashing of the economy when it did, you know, back in the day, in the early 2000s, I think, you know, it really hit them hard, but they've managed to weather the storms, and they're still running successfully, and I think still are one of the leaders in that field. But after like 6 years, for me, it was, you know what, I needed something new, and it, for me, the natural next step was to try and start my own agency.
It seems like you kind of roll from one thing to the next. So how does that? Well, you had the design company. What was the?
Well, a lot of it is by design, in the sense of, you know, you try and create that next channel. I am probably guilty of, you know, being totally immersing myself in something and getting to something and wanting that new challenge, and I'm mindful of that. But you know, through the design companies, how I got involved with Kendal, you know, they needed someone to help them with their brand. They found out quickly that I had a background in an adventure sport, and I ended up helping to program these new events for snow sports, mountain biking, free flight. So we, you know, was very much a core mountaineering climbing event, which I loved, but you know, I knew there was a bigger world out there that would be interested in film and the sort of cultural content that goes with it. So I slowly got involved with Kendal and became more and more integrated into the team when John and Brian had the festival still.
So obviously that leads us quite nicely into talking about the festival, and I suppose from your perspective in the early years, and you touched on it there, at trying to open up the programme to other sports. How was that viewed? Like, how did the original team, how did they feel about that, introducing new stuff like that?
Yeah, they were fine. I think they felt that was a bit odd. A lot of the time coming up with these wacky ideas, but you know, that's being a creative as well. I think it's, you know, and a risk taker. Certainly when I was young, I wasn't afraid to take risks. Would try to be calculated risk though. You know, you try and come up with a, you know, robust system. So you'd say, right, well, I think that snow sports could go down really well at Kendal. I know these people, I know these brands, and we could get them involved. And you know, I think that's really how it started. I mean, just having a passion for certain areas of the outdoor world, and trying to sort of drive that content into the festival. And
at that point, it was accepted. It was well received.
Yeah, it was well received. I think it's like anything; things evolve. You know, when you're in your world, and yet the world around you is evolving. And you know, we're still seeing it today. We still, with Kendal, it's got big and it's got successful, I guess. But you know, we've got our critics, and I respect them and people's opinions. And I think people don't like change. I mean, I'm one of them. I'm a middle-aged bloke, you know, and I should be classically anti-change. But I'm also mindful that there is a whole younger generation out there that are trying to get voices heard, talk about things that maybe aren't as comfortable for people like myself. And you know, I think we've just got to give them the platform, and I think that's, for me, what Kendal is. It's a huge platform for all these communities coming and having a word.
I definitely agree, and I think it'll not be long till we get there, but I think I was just thinking about that period of time before you kind of took over as kind of management team and things like that. How did you see it change yourself?
Yeah, I think it's not been an easy process. I think because my wife, Jackie's the chief exec, Clive, who's the other director, so there's just three of us now in the business, and you know, I've lived and breathed it, especially with Jackie for, God, since 2004 really, is when I first got involved, but certainly the last 8-10 years, you know, and our kids have gone through the sleepless nights, the stresses, the arguments we've had at home, whether we're doing the right thing, and you know, the financial pressure that it's brought on us, you know, to give up the design business, which really has been swallowed by the festival, and just to throw ourselves full hog into developing what we still feel very passionately about, is the world's best gathering of outdoor people. End of, full stop, whether you're a writer, filmmaker, athlete, industry professional. And I think people now are just cottoning on to how good actually Kendal is, and that's not come by accident. That's come with a lot of great people around us, some of whom aren't here, some of whom are still here in the core team, and I'm not saying it's been easy for anybody, but you know, like anything, we're bucking the trend, I think, certainly in the events world at the moment.
And you have to put the graft in to make that happen.
Yeah, and everybody's got the thing that they add. You know, we've got members of the team who are amazing runners, swim runners, mountain bikers, cyclists, you name it. So everybody's got that passion and content that they bring in. We've got a member of the team who's really driving the diversity angle, very passionate about inclusivity and diversity, as we all are, but you know, she's very much from that perspective, and you know, it's not always easy to have these conversations, but it does stop you in your tracks sometimes and makes you think, right, okay, she's actually got a point there, maybe we should think about it this way, maybe we should approach that differently.
So that kind of takes me on to something that I've sort of seen in social media and things like that, and I don't want to sort of rip the arse out at all, but obviously mountaineers being mountaineers, especially as you say middle-aged men, versions of them, they're very set in their ways, and they like to see the things the way they always were. And I do hear, been to the festival myself a few times, you kind of hear on it's not how it used to be, and we're all not using a word that I don't like, but woke. The festival's woke. Yeah, and it's and I've seen it on social media as well by maybe some sort of higher profile mountaineers having a pop essentially,
I've been popped at a few times for lots of different things. I think you know, I respect their standpoint, and you know, all I could say is just you just got to not be afraid of change, and I think having age is if you're still alive, like I'm 57 now, I'm still alive. A lot of my friends in the past, you know, who I've done stuff with aren't. A lot, I say a few, but you know, there's people who are way worse off than I am, you know, have other problems. But with age comes a lot of experience and maturity, and I think you've sometimes just got to, and I'm guilty myself, you know, I'm one of those people in the team that probably would instantly put my shackles up if I'm going, oh no, this just doesn't feel right for Kendal. But, you know, actually I've had to stop myself, or my wife's told me, you know, Jackie said, you know, just take a step back and just think about the sort of bigger picture and the opportunities we're giving to new people through that. And I think that's, for me, the great thing that's come out of what we're doing. It's this, like, we're employing 15 people at the moment, core team of 12, some part-timers, you know, some of whom are local people, most of whom have moved here. We know we're bringing, must be over £5 to £6 million to the local economy during the festival. But we're not making huge amounts of money. A festival is a huge expense to actually run our event. You know, we're talking a ridiculous amount of money. So you've got a lot of the naysayers, but actually they're not looking at the big picture. You know, we're taking outdoors into schools, free. We're getting the kids to come here. as part of the Kendal for Schools program, free. That costs us tens of thousands of quid to do that. We've got the family-friendly programs at Kendal, free. Base camp is free, so if you're skint, and it's a real passion of ours to make it inclusive, you can come to Kendal and not spend a lot of money and still be motivated, inspired, and meet people that you've never probably met in your life, and just see potentially new channels and things that might interest you, and just buy food and drink. And we think, well, we wanted to keep that. We're in a crisis at the moment in the economy, but we've decided not to put our prices up, and that's a lot of pressure. I can see that pressure on the team coming when we've got all sorts of costs being thrown at us that are 10-20% increase this year, 30 in some cases, and it's a real challenge. But if we have a good handle on the whole organisation, especially Jackie, who is the boss, she's got a real insight into everything, and I've got to say it's credit to her that some of the success has come, most of the success of the last few years, because she's really helicoptered above it and just analysed everything as far as a business is concerned. So with that comes, the pressure to keep the team in employment, and my job is to get the funding in. So I really look after overseas and UK partnerships, as well as doing a fair bit of presenting on tour and at the festival. But to bring the industry here is a lot of work, and we try and give every partner a good slice of the event so they can develop their content and hopefully a long-term relationship with us. But it's so much work. Long gone are the days where you just sponsor Kendal and put your name on a tent and that would be it. I think it's a lot more work now, so yeah.
And it's so much, so spread out, and it sort of includes a lot of the Kendal sort of event spaces, like from the leisure centre back up to
Town Hall, cafes,
yeah.
It's the Edinburgh Fringe of outdoor. I always use that analogy, but it really is, isn't it?
Yeah. No, and the new base camp, obviously, a lot bigger, a lot more space to play with. As much as the base camp was a fixed sort of place to end up beside the bar as well. But a Saturday afternoon, it was pretty busy in there.
Well, it's busy here as well now. I think
And
this year, as we were chatting earlier, this year we're up 15-20% nearly on like for like time of year sales. So people we know are coming to the festival, and like when we see other festivals taking a year off or some closing, sadly, Edinburgh Film Festival just announced it was in receivership. So we know that we're doing a lot of things right, but we can't sit on our laurels, and we've just got to just keep innovating and keep developing things like our player, the online channel, and our overseas tours as well.
As we're talking before recording, you've obviously got the tour in America now. It's going around there. So, and is that receiving sort of good numbers?
Yeah, we had to analyse what was going on out there. We didn't want to take North American content to North America, so it's predominantly British and European content. Although we are European, but British filmmaking, and very much about taking something different to that audience. There are a couple of North American films in there as well, but we did the intros for the digital screenings in the grounds of the Kendal Castle with my colleague Anna Bailey. So her and myself were doing all the film intros, and you think somebody's watching us in Texas and thinking, what the hell is this accent? Northern English accents, two of us, and presenting films. We top and tailed the programme with Lake District Films, fantastic climbing film from Matt Pycroft called The Process, which you might have seen, and then the end one is a running film, again based in the Lake District, which is a phenomenal film as well by Hannah Meyer. So we've got two local films topping and tailing it, and on the intros we're saying, and actually for those of you who wonder where Kendal is, we point to a map, and there's a graphic comes up, and it's like right in the middle of the UK, which pretty much we are, to be honest. So yeah, it's a good promotional thing, certainly for British tourism, as much as it is for the brand of Kendal, taking all these stories, the filmmakers' stories around the world. So, yeah, we've been in China for a while, 6 years, America and Canada. This year, for the first time, we've got about 100 shows in the States. So some small clubs to some bigger venues. We've done 4 live events where we've been in, recently we've just been in Boston and Denver with guest speakers and presenters and stuff. So we've had a few hundreds in these venues, which has been great.
Because there is, from watching some of the things while we're here at the festival, there's a lot of North American sports sort of ambassadors and they come here specifically for the event.
Yeah.
So it's not unknown over there, but I suppose it's for
in industry
to take everybody else. Yes.
And within the athlete world, we're definitely known. I think it's just the wider public is unaware. But we've had the Outside magazine in the States do a post about Kendal, and there's a lot of people really starting to talk about it. This sort of great event in the UK, little old UK.
Is Kendal going to be able to cope with all the influx after that?
I don't know how many could actually make the flight across the Atlantic. It's pretty cheap for them at the moment, the state of the pound, isn't it? But I think we'll always be in Kendal. It's just the challenge of venues and accommodation and everything else. It's not an easy one. It would be easier if we're in Glasgow or Edinburgh, I guess, or Manchester.
But you don't get the feel of it. Yeah, you get a different feel, I would think.
Yeah,
if it was anywhere else.
The fells on your doorstep to go and do your 10k race on, or all the rest of it. We know people are going mountain biking now, or swimming the morning of the festival. There's so many of these, like you say, fringe groups doing fantastic things, and it's just a big buzz, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I once heard it described by Matt and Ellie from Summit Fever as the outdoor industry's Christmas night out. So that's bang on. Yeah.
We've noticed actually this year there's going to be some huge parties. We've got some pretty big name DJs coming for the first time. Nimone from Radio 6 Music, and Carly Wilford, I think, is coming back with the North Face party. So there's so many, and there's Kaylee's and the other musicians as well. So the social side of Kendal's, as it always has been, super important.
100%.
Yeah, so there's going to be some big partying going on this year.
Yeah, good. I'll be here for it.
Yeah.
Talking about the festival, you generally have a theme. Have you released that theme? Are you prepared?
Yeah. The theme this year is solidarity, which I think is in the light of the world, the state of the planet, everything else at the moment. I think it's quite an important thing to pin our stories around this year, and we felt that coming out of the COVID, well, no, we're not out of COVID yet, but you're certainly out of that lockdown period, and we talked about that last year, and this year we felt, well, it is about creating solidarity with different friendships, partnerships, collaborations, and standing up for things we believe in, and we're seeing the challenges we're all facing, whether it's the tragedy in Ukraine or the sort of climate crisis, which we're not going to shy away from, is affecting our industry, and it's going to be huge on the impact on the industry going forward. So we don't shy away from the conversations. I think Kendal is always seen as that sort of left field platform sometimes where people can get a voice. We've got George Monbiot on a Thursday night talking about his new book Regenesis, looking at regenerative farming processes, and it's quite controversial, especially in a farming environment like Cumbria. So but we feel that we should just address these things and give people multiple voices to listen to. Platform.
And I suppose looking at it for the future, what is it? Where would you like to see it go? What would you like to see, or what does the team want Kendal Mountain Festival to do?
It's a really good and a really hard question, I think, Davey. I think organically it's been growing, and we've been trying to manage that growth. Obviously, we're limited. One thing we're doing at the moment is just seeing how many bums on seats we can get, just to enable everyone to see films, and it's a huge film program, as you know, but we're limited with the number of venues we have at our disposal. unless we start building them, which as in pop-up venues and things like that. So that might be something in the future if we can get the provision in town as well. So it's a fine line, isn't it, between a sustainable event and growth, which isn't always a good thing. So where we're going in the future, I think it's just improving the quality for the visitor each year, you know, whether it's tech, whether it's just the provision of experience. I think we still have a lot of work to do on that, although it's great. I think there's so many areas we can improve on. But from an organisational perspective, I think we want to grow the tours around the world. We're looking at Australia, New Zealand next year, and then probably into Europe, where we'll probably look at, you know, France and Germany, but having, you know, local language people there. So yeah, to grow the touring element and the player, I think is the big resource that we've got, which I think we'll see really grow in the next 5 to 10 years. I think the channel that we've got, and that'll no doubt take various iterations, but I think it will be a really important element of what we're about. Us creating content to go on there, but also being able to secure and play content through that, so people can tune in
when they can't make it here.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what's happening. I think we went to 52 countries around the world with the player last year. During the festival week, we sell tickets for the festival for those people that can't see it. So it goes out a day after the festival. So yeah, we're broadcasting stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people, especially people who can't make it for whatever reason, whether it be trips or whatever that they're on, they'll still get the opportunity to be be
Yeah.
Although they can have a beer, but they just won't be with everybody else.
Yeah.
And I suppose we didn't really talk about, you mentioned your family and obviously your wife, but you have kids. You have 3?
5.
5. There you go. I got that wrong.
2 stepchildren and 3 of my own. But yeah, no, we're a blended family, but from a young age, and they've all grown up together, and they're all absolutely immersed in the festival of metal. There, you know, people that people think are heroes, but they just take it in their stride. And some are more into the outdoors, and they're all very, very creative and wonderful kids. Yeah.
Okay. And do you think they'll ever be on the Mountain Festival core team? I think that'll be I think they're going to work for them and dad.
They're pulled in every year.
Yes, I bet they are.
Last year I walked into the one of the parties in I think it was the North Face après ski party, and it was after the snow night, and there's my youngest daughter helping hand out shots, and I'm like, what are you doing? You should be in bed. And like my stepdaughter, she's on the help desk. Yeah, so it is. Somebody once called us the Evis family of outdoor.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, which I thought is quite appropriate, really. So they're all pulled in one way or another. But yeah, I think they've also lived through the hard times, and I don't think they'd be so keen in.
They'll go and carve their own path.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
fair enough.
I wouldn't want that.
And then I suppose for the future, for yourself and Jackie, I mean, what does that hold? I mean, there must be some stuff you still want to do, places to go, things like that.
We love our travel.
Following your social media, you're pretty active.
Jackie's got a background. She lived in Aspen for 6 years, a fantastic skier. She worked on rivers, kayaking. She's from New Zealand. She's from the outdoor mould, and we both want to, go on big bike touring trips and stuff. So I guess for the future for us is very much about nurturing the team so that they can slowly take over things, and then we can still be involved, but maybe not as heavily. But I think that's quite a few years away yet still. I know we're not young, but we've got a young team underneath us that keep us on our toes.
And then I suppose just in general, is there anything that you specifically still want to try? Is there is there something that you've got in mind? Do you still?
I don't know. I've recently started cold water swimming. From interviewing one of the groups.
I've seen you the Blue.
The Blue Mind Men. Fantastic group of fellas and women actually are coming as well to that. So it's men and friends, or relations and partners and what have you. But it was one of those things. I was interviewing them on stage, and they made me swear on stage that I would go for a dip, and I couldn't really say no. And actually, I've found it. Yeah, it's getting a bit harder now, but I'm enjoying the social side. I've been quite, throughout my life, been quite solo. Like a lot of outdoor people are, they're quite happy in their own skin and would go off and do solo adventures, do a lot of running in the hills. I did a few ultra races in 2018 until my hip finally gave up on me. So I had a new hip put in a year ago. So sort of semi-bionic now, but just getting back into my road biking and a bit of running if it allows me to. But yeah, so far so good. And the swimming's been great. Yeah. See how far I get through the winter.
Well, I interviewed Gilly earlier on this year, and she made me. That was one of the things. I'll do an interview if you come in.
It was Gilly's fault, really. Yeah, she was one of the ones,
and
and getting the guys. But yeah, she's like, all right, Steve, that's it, you're in.
Yeah. Well, I think we've been chatting for a while now, but thank you for your time. I know it's a busy time, and I'm looking forward to the festival as usual. I'm sure I'll see you in passing again as we go through. But thank you for your time, and that's been Steve from Kendal Mountain Festival. Thanks very much.
Cheers, David. Thank you.
That's been Pathing Outdoors. Please subscribe, all that good stuff, and watch all the other stuff, especially Gillies, because that was quite good. And we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks very much.